Despite all the growth in Boston's housing supply, there's also more concern about the loss of affordable units. That's why activists from around the city are getting behind a new agenda. To tell us about their goal is a community organizer with City Life Vida Urbana, Ronel, Remy, and a community organizer from the Codman Square Neighborhood Development Corporation, Yvette Modestin. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
You both work along the Fairmount corridor. At least you've done a lot of your work, Ronel. You've had events before about people fighting against higher rents, but what's been happening lately?
Lately, it's something I call a calm before the storm, because there's this train station that's just about to open, and folks know that. Because of it, the rent is going to be even higher than it is now. So those investors who are already there, they're chilling actually. They're holding the property and evicting people, not changing the conditions in those apartments, and just waiting out until folks can't take it anymore.
You have a new stop at Blue Hill Avenue, between the Avenue and Cummins Highway. What's going on around there right now?
Well, it's brand new. It's state of the art. We took a train ride on it about a month ago. We organized against it. It was really nice. We need this type of development in the city. But what does it do to our community? A lot of folks they try not to talk about that. So across the street from it, actually, there is a big property that used to be called, my God.
Well, there's a new name. It's changing hands.
Elon Estate. And then they sold it for $65 million, The community also was appalled. We didn't know what that was going to happen. And then before I think the egg even dry on the papers, they were advertising online as Soma at the T, showing you a picture of the train, and envision that if you live in that community, you take the train between 15, 20 minutes, you are downtown and you come back. Folks would love that. And when this happened, there is no safety net to help our community. So what would happen to those who live there? They're going to be priced out. They're going to be evicted. And it's a done deal. And we've seen that time and time again.
Yvette, the NDC saw this line as an opportunity to build affordable units, which was a good thing. That happened, but what has happened since?
Well, I mean, that's just part of Boston. Boston as a whole is in a crisis because although this gateway allowed folks to have quicker access to transportation and get to work a lot faster, what it did, like Ronel was saying, it displaced those that have been there because now people want to be closer to the train, and those that have been there forever and ever can't afford. Because once someone new comes in, what we're seeing is that store then goes up and that store can't stay. That house that elder is living in, we're seeing a lot of seniors that have a set income, that have been living in these areas for a very long time. And once that starts to increase, they can't stay there. So we're seeing a lot of folks losing their homes and then having to move. And then you have the landlords who are seeing it as an opportunity, like, oh, people want to live here, let me raise this rent. So we're in a crisis where, we need to stabilize the rent in the city as a whole, and we need to have it led, this fight needs to be led by the people who are most impacted.
Now, I know there are some parts of the city where new supply might be bringing some market relief, but I can also see parts of Dorchester, Mattapan, Jamaica Plain, Hyde Park. There might be areas where even with new supply, you've got these hotspots. There is an agenda that's being put together, and that's one of the things you're trying to address in a way. There are these hotspots in the city, and I guess people should have some special protections if they're living there?
Well, what we're asking is that, the rent be, according to the people that are most affected, to the income of the people that are living around there. The income in Boston and the rent costs are not matching. So folks are not able to stay. And it's not just displacement about losing that apartment or that home. You're also displaced from your community, your family support, that store that you can get that food from that you want to buy, and the health of our community is at stake. This crisis is affecting the stability and the mindset of our community because our community is stressed. We are seeing people at CSNDC who are coming in after that letter, and the stress level just leads them to want to leave. And then we have to be like, pause. You have some room that we need to figure this out, that you don't have to leave right away. So the stress level for folks, the anxiety that we're seeing in our community is very high. Because if you're not stable where you live, then it trickles down into everything else that you do.
Ronel, another thing that's in this agenda is to have a goal for the number of at least a percentage of housing that would be affordable. But you're also concerned about how affordable.
Yes.
What do you mean?
This term affordable means it's a big term. A lot of our folks don't understand it. When you saying affordable, if I have to work 3 jobs, to pay that, it's not affordable to me. So that's the issue a lot of folks have now, and also when we're thinking that others who have a lot of money can come and buy properties in bulk and hold it down, until when you outprice, you outmatch, and then they could, when you come back, they change the community completely. Everybody's aware. It's mass eviction. This crisis is man-made basically. We can solve that. We could find some ground to say, okay, if we build these new apartments, there should be a percentage of it that is available for folks who cannot really afford this amount of money. How much do we want to make? If we want to make 300% and 400% on our investment, we will definitely evict people who cannot afford them. And it's not an issue that if they can't live here, maybe they should move out. This is the community they built. How could you come and you push them out because you can? It is not fair.
Yvette, another agenda item is to have more local control over development decisions or zoning decisions, maybe. What would that mean exactly?
Just for us to be involved in the city's decision making around where they're going to build, what sizes are they going to build, who is involved in that decision. Should the community have veto power to say, you know what, we don't want that here because that's going to take away this from us. So that's part of one of our 3 demands. Our 3 demands that came out of our Boston People's Plan Assembly was governance, affordability, and zoning. So how do we control what is happening in our immediate area and have the city come to us before they make any decisions versus them doing it and then coming to us, and then by that time we have no say. Now,
does local control mean veto power, or just maybe the city just has to hear people and make sure they understand what's going to happen?
I think it's we would want veto power to a certain extent.
Everybody wants veto power.
We want
that.
Yeah. But I think it's more to have an engaging dialogue. What's happening, for instance, in Not For Sale, which is one of the groups that comes out of the assembly, is what happened around that Fields Corner, Glover's Corner area, and it was already decided, and then the community was brought in, and by then it was like, what are you doing? So how do we not have those situations happen? That the city, the developers are engaged in the conversation with the community, so that the community has some say in what is about to happen.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Ronel, Remy from City Life, Vida Urbana, and Yvette Modestin from Codman Square Neighborhood Development Corporation. Ronel, of course, one thing I imagine developers saying when confronted with an agenda like this is that you're going to make it too difficult to get anything approved. We're not going to build units. The market's going to be tighter than ever. I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, I say any responsible city, like we call ourselves Boston, Massachusetts, we are a world-class city. Folks from all over the world come by here. So if we're not responsible enough to take care of our own citizens, so something is wrong there. So when you're telling me that you have enough money, you could only see your return, you don't see anyone else, something is wrong there. So why can we make it in such a way that the community has a voice, in what's going on around them? You're telling me you're changing things in my own neighborhood and I don't know because you plan I won't be there, so what should I know? That's the rhetoric behind it. We're thinking if they're really serious about things, they would sit with the community saying, this is the plan we have. What do you think about it? How do we get you involved with that? and it'll be a very different story. You won't see that level of eviction anymore. You won't see homelessness at the rate that it is now, because folks will understand we have resources, we can do this and that. If we gotta go to court, we will be legally we will have representation, which we don't have now. You know, it's just you against the landlord or the big corporation. When you go there, I go there every Thursday, you know, and I'm seeing somebody comes in who's facing eviction. Either the landlord has 2 or 3 lawyers with them. The person comes alone. What do you think will happen?
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're saying.
And then when people know their rights, they're able to navigate better, you know, and then so there's that piece. So if you know that you can get support before you go in there, or that there's a way to pause that before you get in there, then we have a more stable community. And then when the decision making is being done with the voice of the community involved, then we would be lessening this crisis.
I do want to ask you one more thing about the Dotplot project. It's a huge project, and one of the things I noticed in it, there were a lot of community meetings in that project, but it was mainly about butters who were concerned about density and parking, and to get the affordability into the conversation.
It was real. I've been to a few of the meetings, and you know, props to my colleagues who have led that piece. But it has so much mixed into it. Because it's like people want that supermarket that's going to be better, that's going to come, and they want that park that's going to come, but they don't know that then doesn't allow folks that have been there forever and ever to stay. You know, the traffic that's going to come with that new development is something that people that have been living there forever and ever are really concerned about. You know, in one of the meetings, this young woman, her family, refugees from Vietnam have been there. That's where they have been most of the time that they've been in the country, and she can't even come back and live where her parents live to be able to be supportive of her parents. So those are some of the things that we keep in mind when we are in this fight, but I'm not sure those that are, you know, making these decisions are.
Thank you both very much, Yvette Modestin and
welcome. Thank
Ronel
you.
Remy.
Thank you.